on the front porch, and now we're on the back porch. Welcome to show number 73. Where something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. Whoa, things will change, leaves will fall, and it will rain. Transformed before your eyes, with no time for chasing. Why? Oh, you never know just how life is gonna go. So you jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. All right, it's Sunday. I'm gonna do a little preaching here. Oh, you gotta aim high and go for your pie in the sky. Go ahead and trust yourself. Everything will right itself. That's the preaching part. Everything's gonna right itself. Oh, life's a stream, so go ahead now. Follow your dream. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Are you a singer?
No.
Oh. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. I knew it.
There you go.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Rusty Barr. Now, full disclosure, we're related.
Third cousins?
I don't know how to do
I don't know
how
either.
to do the counting. But I guess, was it your grandfather and my grandfather, or was it your great-grandfather?
My great-grandfather.
Okay, your great-grandfather and my grandfather were brothers.
Right.
And so somebody out there, do the calculations, let us know how we're actually related. And I'm up here in the mountains visiting family, because that's what people do. And I'm really pleased that you agreed to get on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's something funny, because you got to talk to me and him
Okay.
at the same time. It's
All right.
hard,
Yeah.
you know. Ooh, it's hard. We got family pulling up as we speak. Now, we are here to talk about Christmas trees.
And a few landscape trees as
And
well.
a few landscape trees as well. And we have some exciting, go ahead and bring them on up. We have somebody delivering some baby Christmas trees here for the show, and they've just arrived, so that's what's happening off camera. There's always something happening off camera.
Yeah. The dog's barking.
The dog's barking. Now, you're in the Christmas tree business.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now that means you have to plant them.
No, first we have to raise the seedlings.
You raise the season.
Which comes from a cone, and the little seeds inside the little petals of the cone. So,
Okay, so when you start with a pine cone,
yeah,
each one of those little petals
as a seed.
is a seed or has a seed.
Has a seed.
Yeah, that's what like pine nuts are, right?
Right, exactly.
They're pine
Exactly.
nuts. And now, do you put the seeds in a little seed cup?
Yeah, we do. We actually use like styrofoam trays that have like 200 cells.
Well, look, here's one right here.
Yeah,
a
there we go.
styrofoam tray.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Look at that.
And these have actually been, these are actually 1 year old, and they're starting their second year in a tray with 45 cells.
This tree, when did you plant this little thing?
In 2020.
In 2020.
March.
What time? You planted them in March.
March.
So, now this is 2021. So this is a year and a little bit more.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And now a Christmas tree is real big.
Yeah, usually 8 feet, 7 or 8 feet tall is kind of the size that
Well,
you're
how
shooting.
do we get from a Christmas tree that's 2 inches tall to a Christmas tree that's 7 or 8 inches tall?
A lot of work and a lot of care, and you know, we take the trees and we'll take them to the field and plant them in the field that's marked off and kind of on a spacing pattern, usually 4 or 5 feet apart, depending on how big you're wanting to grow them.
Now, can you plant them out when they're this small?
No, this will have to grow for another 2 years before it'll be big enough to go in the field.
Okay, we're already up to 4 years, folks, and we haven't even gotten the tree out into the field. Okay, now, so how much longer can they grow in this particular in these cells?
They could grow for 2 years, but we usually transplant them to a. This has 45 cells. Then the next year we'll transplant them into a tray that only has 24 cells. 24 individual cells, so they'll have more room.
Yes.
A bigger root ball.
Yep.
So they'll go like that for for another year. Then we'll take them out and actually we put them in boxes and carry them to the field and plant them with a shovel or a spade. Sometimes with a tractor and a Christmas tree planter. But most of the time we plant by hand.
And when you say plant them in the field, we're not talking a flat
No,
field like a football field.
It would be nice if they would grow on that, but most of our terrain here is, so we're in the mountains of North Carolina, and most of the terrain is not necessarily really steep, but it has some slope to it, and some places we plant have been cut over timber, and we'll clean off the brush and go back in there and plant the trees. Some of it's ground where we've had trees before. And we'll plant those seedlings either beside the stump or in the middle between the two stumps to get your spacing. So the spacing's already there from the previous crop. So we'll plant those, and hopefully in 7 or 8 years, it'll be the centerpiece of your family Christmas.
But that's 7 or 8 years after 3 or 4 years in these little. So,
So we're really optimistic.
Yeah, you're optimistic. So, I've got all kinds of questions. Number one, what is the most common size Christmas tree that you want to sell, that people are wanting to buy?
6 to 7 and 7 to 8 feet.
And that takes how many years? 12 years to grow.
12 years, yeah, I'd say. It's like 7 to 8 years in the field.
Yeah.
And 4 to 5 years at the nursery.
At the nursery.
So they take a lot of care to get. Traditionally, people think that the Christmas tree grows about a foot a year, but it does after it's established in the field. Because the first year when you plant them, they kind of they only grow 5 or 6 inches. And anything more than that is you're excited.
And then okay, so once you plant them in the field. They're about how tall by the time?
They're 10 to 14, probably a little, maybe a foot tall.
A little foot tall. And then you have to do more. You don't just plant them. What's the next thing we're doing?
Well, we keep the weeds away from them. We fertilize them. And then after the second or sometimes the third year, we start pruning them with a big knife. You could kind of equate it to a roast beef carving knife.
Bzz, is it electric thing?
No, it's not electric. It's actually just a machete.
And you gotta whack it.
And you whack it, and everybody's probably seen the videos on the guy where the guy uses 2 knives. We don't use 2 knives, one in each hand, just 1 knife, and our protective equipment, and we prune each tree individually.
So there's a field full of trees,
right.
And you walk around with a butter knife. A carving knife. A Christmas tree.
Machete.
A machete. He goes around with a butter knife. And when you say pruning them, what you're doing is shaping them up.
Yeah, we're putting the pyramidal shape on them. They grow naturally in a pyramidal shape, but they won't have as much density as they would if you prune them. They're thicker. The branches are close together. Produces more buds on each limb as they're cut back. So it makes for a less natural product, I guess you would say.
Right, more like fuller.
Fuller, yeah, exactly.
Well, that gives you more room for each Christmas
ornament.
So, how many times do we have to prune these trees in the 7 years they're in the field?
Well, we would prune them probably at least 5 times. So, depending.
But only once a year.
Only once a year.
Once a year. And what time of year do we prune them?
We start pruning after the 4th of July usually.
Okay, so they've had a flush of growth.
Flush of growth. It's out there. It's succulent. As soon as and this is about Fraser fir. Pines you do earlier, spruces. spruce earlier, a little earlier, but you know, the Fraser fir, which is, you know, predominantly our Christmas tree, is
Now, what is this a
this
Fraser
is a
fir?
Fraser fir.
Now, do we have some? Is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. We have some bits. Oh,
Yeah.
I,
So, like, I mean, this tree grows native here in the woods. It's called Canadian hemlock. It's a long, flowing limb, and it's a very exceptional landscape tree.
can you see it in the camera there?
So,
Hold
you
it
know,
up higher,
Hold it up.
or like it with the background.
Okay. So
we
this
go.
then now this one is called what?
Canadian hemlock.
A Canadian hemlock.
Over that way.
So,
Yeah, better.
And we have we have one here in the Carolinas called a Carolina hemlock. It just has a little different needle structure, but it's basically a very similar plant. There's not many of them grown commercially. Canadian hemlock is
Now
commercial.
I'm gonna
but-
hand that to you, and you dangle it in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Can it grow in hotter weather?
Can it grow in hotter weather?
Yeah, it's you know, in the landscape, and it can be planted predominantly all across the United States. But it's
In
had
tidewater? Like
Oh.
in hot 90-degree day?
yeah, possibly with some irrigation.
Oh, okay.
So you know, it had an insect that came in here,
Yes.
and it's called the Hemlock woolly adelgid, and it wiped out a lot of the native stands in the forest.
Yep.
So we were quarantined from shipping this product to certain states from the Department of Agriculture. So, but it's starting to come back because there's not really many growing.
No wild ones
No
now.
wild
so
ones. No commercial. The nurseries cut back growing it because of the quarantine.
Yeah.
So, but it's really a irreplaceable plant in the landscape. Just no other plants really have that shape, that form. And this is a Norway spruce, which we sell a lot, and it's a more of an army green looking. It's kind of flat needled. It grows really fast, but it's
really
kind-
fast means 7 instead
five
of 10
years,
years.
5 years in the field, 6 years in the field. You know, and some of them, if we grow them to 10 feet, you know, they're 12 years old when we would harvest them. But we harvest all these other species with a spade, and we dig the dirt and the root and put a wire basket on it and a burlap
So
sack.
this is what people call a living tree that
Living
you can
tree.
consider. Now, people, we can't even get to the end of one subject before I get off on another. People are always getting these live trees, but it's not that simple, is it, to keep it alive well enough? You have to keep them wet a little bit in your house.
Oh yeah, and the most difficult thing about the live tree is that, you know, basically Christmas is in the winter, so
Yes.
you've got that tree. It's been harvested. You take it out. You know, it's in your house. It's 70 degrees, so that's more like summertime weather. So they have to take them and either, you know, plus they have to water them in a tub, or, you know, it has the dirt and the roots and the basket and all that kind of stuff. So they water them and use them for their Christmas tree, and then they'll move them maybe to the garage for
Right.
a little while.
So it's better if you want a live tree to not have one in your house for 3 months. You know how some people decorate right after. I've always heard you just, keep it in the house for 2 or 3 days, or
Yeah, a week or two, you know. So, I mean, basically what it's doing is allowing the tree to, it's dormant when the cold weather is there in the fall, and it's been dug, and you move it in your house, and it just wakes back up. It thinks it's spring. You take it out, and, you know, if you're in a place where you get snow and cold weather, it's probably going to kill it.
freeze to death.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so what you just bring it in for a little bit of time, and then put it out on the porch and hope
Yeah, or put it
put
in
it
a
in
garage, protected area or something.
a protected area.
Keep it watered until closer to spring.
Closer to spring. Well, there you go. So, so a lot of the trees that you're planting, you say you dig up for live trees, and that's shorter trees probably.
Right, yeah. You know, 4 feet, 5 feet tall. You know, 6 to 7, 5 to 6 foot is the basically, you know, most popular size. But this is one everybody, you know, it's probably the most popular landscape tree in the United States, Colorado blue spruce. And you can see it's a little prickly.
It's a little prickly. Here, show the people. Show the people.
But it's got beautiful green foliage. I mean, blue foliage, bluish green, and you know, it's a specimen tree for your yard, or, you know, and it grows in a majority of the states, but, you know, some places like
Can
coast,
it really grow in hot weather though? Like
it doesn't like you know, extremely hot.
Like in Winston-Salem or Richmond,
Now,
Virginia.
where are most of the Christmas trees in the United States grown? Or different
Well,
places, or
yeah, they're different places. You know, Oregon, Washington, Michigan,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, of course. And just last year, a couple of years ago, they said Ashe County was was the largest Christmas tree producing county in the nation. So I mean, you're here in Christmas tree country.
And then we have this West Jefferson. This town has a Christmas in July, I guess, because of all the Christmas trees.
Yeah, and of course it was postponed again because of COVID. So
Well, Christmas wasn't postponed.
Christmas
though.
wasn't postponed.
Well,
And
have you talked about the White House Christmas tree?
Not yet, but
Okay.
we will. We have people. We have the
got
audience here. We got the audience chiming in. Hold on. Okay, now I want to back up a little bit
okay,
more.
we'll back up.
Okay, so we've taken our little foot-high tree and we've planted it out in the field, and we've let it grow for a few years. Now you have to mow between the trees. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Because if the weeds get too high,
Right.
they'll overgrow the tree.
Yeah, and there's you know, I mean, we do chemical mowing as well.
Oh yes, now we
Sorry.
don't. Yes. Okay, so let's just touch on that subject. The growing of Christmas trees takes what, fertilizer and
Fertilizer, few insecticides,
Mm-hmm.
and a few herbicides to control the weeds. I mean, we like because we're on the steep slopes. We like to keep we use a lot of white clover
Mm-hmm.
that is there, and we use low rates of Roundup to basically suppress the grasses and weeds so that they don't grow 4 and 5 feet tall like they would normally.
Right. So that's somebody walking the trees.
Walking
and,
the tree, yeah, we walk every row, and we, you know, we're looking for bugs and harmful insects, and we're looking for, you know, all kinds of stuff that, you know, could damage the trees. Like if a vine's growing up in it, you know, we'll pull it out, and, that kind of stuff. And you know, we pick off the little pine cones on the smaller ones because we don't want them to produce pine cones, because when they shatter, they just leave a little stem, so it just doesn't look good.
So you have picked every pine cone off every tree that you planted.
Right. Yes, ma'am. And they really don't start producing pine cones until they're 6 or 7 years in the
old.
field, maybe 10 years old if you count 5 for the nursery, you know. So 8 or 10 years they'll start producing some cones. It's usually not a lot. Then when you have your bigger trees, like say one that's 10 or 12 feet, it may have hundreds of cones on it.
Okay. Now, so that's one person standing there picking off 100 cones before you can sell a Christmas tree.
Yeah, we carry a ladder and we walk through the field. We climb up there, pick them off. And that's the same way that the seed was harvested, except it's, you know, on a tree that's probably 25 years old. Before the Fraser fir seed's viable, it needs to be 20 to 25 years old. And we have a little trick that we can do to accelerate that.
What's that?
Is we take a limb that's off a tree that's maybe 12 or 15 years old, and we graft it onto a smaller rootstock and let it grow up. So in about 10 years you'll have viable seed.
So it still thinks it's
15,
15.
and it's really
Whoa, you're tricky. You know, one time I planted trees in Canada, in the west coast of Canada, on the biggest clear cut in America. They weren't Christmas trees. They were paper trees. You know, like pine or lumber trees,
maybe Douglas fir or
something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah, and they said that the way they got, I talked to the ranger there, and they send you out in the field with a little tree like this, and you plant one. And they say that they have a big machine that'll come and shake an old tree, and if they shake it, it stresses it out, and then it will produce more seed, the tree itself.
Yeah, and that's the same, you know, if it's drought or if it's, you know, extremely warm like they're having the West Coast, you know, the trees will probably produce more seed.
Yeah, because they're trying to get away from there.
Right. They want to make sure they survive, so they've survived for thousands of years. The natural stands, actually, of Fraser fir are here in northwest North Carolina and southwest Virginia and Tennessee.
There are natural Fraser firs.
Roan Mountain, Mount Mitchell, Richland balsams, which is down towards Asheville. They have
And Mount Rogers.
in Mount Rogers, which is in Virginia. So I mean, they grow above 4,000 feet typically, and here the elevation we're growing trees is about 3,000 feet. So they, at 4,000 feet they're exposed to a lot more weather, and they can mature into a beautiful tree because they're not on the high peaks getting 100-mile-an-hour winds in the winter.
Right, beat up.
Beat up. But,
Now, how many trees? I guess there's big Christmas tree farmers and smaller Christmas tree farmers. But let's say you were a small Christmas tree farmer. How many trees would you have to plant to make it worth your while?
A lot of people do choose and cut, which is basically they're growing a patch of trees maybe in their backyard or in a field next to that they own, and they might have 1,000 trees, 500 trees. People come in and pick one, and they can make a second income from that. And then there's people that have maybe do it only retail. They might grow 3,000 to 5,000 trees a year and sell those to on their retail lots. And then you've got commercial growers, which are small to medium growers. Maybe they're growing 30 to 50,000 trees a year.
And like we live down there in Florida, so when we buy a Christmas tree in Florida, it's come from here or somewhere else.
Right.
But I happen to know you all happen to send them down there. So how much time happens between the time you cut the tree and it gets down to my Home Depot down there in Florida?
It's probably about 2 weeks on the maximum side. Some of them are cut and put on the truck the next day. Some of them are cut for a week or 10 days and then put on the truck.
Because you got to fill the truck, I guess.
Yes. And I mean, like typically we harvest about 50,000 trees, and we sell some retail, and we sell most of the rest of them go to garden centers or just a private person that has a Christmas tree lot. And there's a lot of trees sold in Florida.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's really. It would probably be enough to float the whole state if it starts to sink.
We can make a raft out of these Christmas
trees. Yeah, there you go.
Now I hear there's a shortage of Christmas trees. Is that true?
There's a little bit of it. Well, when you say shortage, I mean there should be enough trees for everybody to get a tree that wants a tree. They may have to, hopefully they come out and get them when they're there. They're probably not going to be around on the 24th of December.
Right.
But, I mean, I think it's the point that, with the pandemic, people spent more time at home. They went out. There's more people that actually stayed in their homes. Maybe they didn't travel to their in-laws, so they had a tree themselves. And, the sales were phenomenal, last year. And hopefully they'll continue. And we saw more and more young families coming out to either start, they had just purchased a home within a few years, and they were starting their tradition with their kids.
Aww.
And it's a good thing. I think it's a environmental choice. It's we're a family business. My son, my dad, my wife, my daughter helps some.
So that's how you got into this, was your father over there who refuses to come talk to us.
Yeah.
He got into the Christmas tree business for whatever reason,
But he was always in agriculture and liked agriculture, and then they were in forestry with wood and lumber production, and he migrated to Christmas trees early in the start of it, which somewhere around the 60s. So he had trees when he was in high school, and ended up selling them. They actually went for a landscape tree. They dug them up.
Right.
And he said, well, that's pretty good. I might plant some more. So until, mid-60s, probably Fraser Fir seedlings weren't readily available, so we grew a lot of eastern white pine, which is something that's kind of long.
It looks a little bit
different than that.
A little blue, but
a little bluish and green, white,
Here we've lost our second person there to
show the needles.
There we go. This one's a little softer, yeah.
It's soft, yeah, and it doesn't so the disadvantage was it's kind of doesn't have really strong branches, so it won't hold the heavy ornaments.
Right, that blue one, you
Yeah.
put a heavy ornament
Yeah.
on it, and it won't
Yeah, and
doesn't have dysfunction.
the disadvantage to the spruces is that they don't hold their needles as well after they've been cut.
Okay, we're gonna have to make choices
Yeah, gotta make
between
choices.
erectness and
They will work if they're cut late.
yeah.
And most people that are buying them, I mean, some people buy them on retail lots, and some people, come up and get maybe one choosing cut and take it home. And but the fur, whether it's Fraser fur or any of the other furs that are grown, hold their needles better than most. And Fraser fur is exceptional. It has good smell, has
Yeah.
great needle retention. I mean, you always have a few that for one reason or the other they, decide, well, we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
But it's overall they're really excellent tree for your Christmas.
Now, how big will you sell a tree? Like I'm sure different businesses
Oh,
have
yeah.
different,
Yeah, I mean,
guidelines.
what's
for the bar,
Yeah, like 14 to 15 feet, 15 to 16 feet.
yeah, who has a house that big anyway?
Most of the time it's going to a hotel
Oh,
or
right, the lobby
a
of the
civic
hotel.
center
Or a commercial
building.
Commercial buildings.
or business.
And a few people have a few houses like that.
That's all right.
We have a tradition here in Ashe County. We've sent more trees to the White House.
Oh yes, that's so exciting.
Yeah, we've never sent a tree actually ourselves. It's a tough competition. You have to win the state competition. Then you go take a tree to the national competition. You compete against all the other Christmas tree
Now
producers.
wait a minute. You're taking your tree on a little leash
Right.
to so you there's a competition for everything, everybody. Who knew? Christmas tree competition. Okay, so you would cut a tree.
Cut a tree, and it would be typically in August. And you take it
Yeah.
to a meeting where all the producers are gathered.
And how
together.
big is this tree?
Usually 7 to 8 feet.
Okay, a 7 to 8 foot tree,
Mm-hmm.
and you take it to a competition.
Right, and they'll have judges at the competition,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes the public will be able to say, I like this one the best, and then they'll take the judges' votes and the popular vote.
Now, are they all the same variety?
No.
Or you take whatever. If you want to bring a blue spruce,
Blue
and
spruce,
I
you
want to
can-
bring
right. Yeah, they have a competition for true furs, which is Fraser fir, balsam fir, noble
Canaan
fir, Canaan fir. They'll have those species. Then they have other species, and then they'll have
Pine.
a pine species. So you could win with basically 3 different types of trees.
All right, so you've won based on shape and
Shape,
health and
yeah.
color,
Yeah.
and but don't they all look pretty much? I mean, they all look the same. All you Christmas trees look the same to me. I mean, how much variety is there between a well cared for tree? I mean, is the winner a clear winner?
Oh yeah.
Oh well, I mean, in the competition, it's like just very minute defects that cause one to be the grand champion versus the runner-up.
Okay, so now I've brought my 7-foot Christmas tree in August to the competition, and I won with
Yay.
this beautiful tree. I'm a winner.
I'm a winner.
Okay, so then I get chosen to bring my tree to the White House?
So
No.
yeah.
Wait.
Well,
No.
All right, are you going to come up here and talk with us?
So
peeping from
basically the
Bible.
state competition,
Yes.
then you'll enter to the national competition.
But
and do
with
the
a
same-
different tree.
With a different tree. Doing it over again, you win that competition, and then you can go to the White House.
Right,
you have-
but so you've cut down 2 good trees.
2 good trees.
And wasted them.
Wasted them away.
And they just but they're smaller. Now the tree you bring to the White House, how tall is it?
18 and a half feet.
It's got to be 18, not 18
No,
and a half
18
plus?
and a half plus. Yeah, they send somebody, I think it's a usher or somebody, and he picks the tree for the blue room. And, of
Oh,
course.
so he walks down the aisle of
Oh,
trees, and he says,
well, you'll bring him. I mean, you might bring him. An 18 and a half feet tree. You might only have 10 of them.
oh,
If you
okay.
had,
That many, yeah.
that many, you might have to find it out of somebody's yard.
Well, buy a house, just cut your tree.
Yeah. So it's.
And I mean, is the competition stiff? How many
Yeah.
people want to? I mean, I guess everybody. But I mean,
Well-
doesn't that? I presume it's like if you're growing pumpkins for Halloween, it's one thing, and if you're growing pumpkins for a competition, you're feeding them milk or whatever.
Right.
So,
So people do, like, if they're wanting to be in the competition, they may, we said pruning, shearing.
yeah.
They'll go and prune their tree earlier in the cycle so that you don't see the cuts. The later you cut it, the more you see the rosin that seals over the end. So they'll do it earlier,
Yeah.
so it doesn't show up. They'll, and it's just,
Now, how many years does it take to grow this 18-foot tree?
you're probably looking at 25 years.
So if you want your Christmas tree in the White House, you needed to start 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That is, I didn't, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good honor, I guess.
Well, yes.
You'd be on a lot of the Good Morning shows and
Yeah.
promote your business. The biggest disadvantage to it is you go up there on Thanksgiving and you're presenting a tree to the White House when your company or your business is trying to get all the trees to the consumers and to the retailers.
Right.
So you kind of say bye for a day and go
Or
to
two.
Washington or two.
Put the tree. And so Ashe County has had won the honor more times
Yeah,
than
I think it's
anybody in Washington.
Eight times.
Right.
8 times. And we're actually having a national Christmas tree meeting here in Ashe County this year, and they will choose the winner to go to the White House. And they actually have a national meeting every 2 years. So they'll have the grand champion and then the reserve champion. And so the grand champion can pick if he wants to go next year or the following year. And
He could go twice.
no, he
No.
just goes once, but he
Oh,
just picks
he
his,
picks which year he
and
wants
so
to go.
the reserve guy, he has to
to
go
take
whatever they get.
Yeah. Oh, darn. You don't get to
So
choose.
you don't get to choose. So more than likely, the grand champion usually defers and goes the second year.
Why?
I don't know. I
Seems
guess
like
just
you go
gives
the
him,
first year.
gives him more time
To plan.
Plan maybe, but
All right. Now, you yourself have started growing, other than Christmas trees, you started growing nursery plants, like when you go to a nursery and you.
right.
Now, why'd you.
Well, I was telling you, we had a lot of pines, and my dad thought that, it would be a good idea if we, we couldn't sell them all as Christmas trees because the sales had started to decline, and we had thousands of them.
Yep.
So we bought a Bobcat or one of the little track machines, to run a tree spade, and we dug
A
them
tree
up,
spade kind of.
and it's hydraulics, and it digs the ground, brings the tree up out of the ground, and puts it in a basket and
In one fell
One
swoop.
swoop, yeah.
So it keeps it. Yeah.
keeps the dirt and the roots and everything in a compact little ball, and we put it there, and we could sell them to landscapers and wholesalers that might sell to like say if you send a load to Chicago, the guy he sells it to all the local landscapers. They come in and get 4 or 5, and he can bring a whole load, which might be 100 trees.
Now, can you sell a tree for more, the same tree that you might sell to a landscaper, and as a Christmas tree, do you sell it more does it cost more as a Christmas tree?
The Christmas tree's less than
Yeah, well, the cut ones, I guess,
cut
would be
ones.
less.
Right? Yeah, no, they're about the same. They're the
Yeah,
same
so
price.
if you buy a Christmas tree that's balled and burlapped, a live tree is about the same price.
About
as
the
a-
same price as
You don't charge double at Christmas
No.
time. You don't no Christmas gouging.
No gouging.
Okay.
No gouging.
Yes, and so it is interesting. And you said there that sort of went by that the Christmas tree industry had died out for a little while, or had too many people planted Christmas trees.
Yeah, we
Or
did.
both.
We did. When we had they called the Great Recession, '08,
Yeah.
and '09. Christmas trees basically. There was a lot of production, and the economy starts contracting, and 10, 11, 12. There was a little bit of oversupply of trees, and we cut some down. We expanded our wreath making operations because of the fact there was more material available for wreath and garland production. So basically we would take tree limbs, like this, and make a wreath, on a frame,
Yeah.
and we sell those as well, and we can use this as a boxwood,
Yeah, this is the American boxwood.
American boxwood.
Yep, a little pointy leaf that makes it an American boxwood.
And we also use some products from the Western red cedar, stuff like that.
You mean do you have somebody ship you Western red cedar to use?
Right.
Noble fir.
Noble
And
fir.
noble fir.
And put them together. We make the wreaths, to ship with the trees. So somebody, if they're going to set up, we can supply everything they need. We can give them wreaths. We can give them garlands, which is basically like a rope of branches.
Right. You put that over your mantelpiece.
Over your mantelpiece or on your front door. And 25 feet is kind of the standard. To go across your front door. You might have a little bit extra, but
now if anybody has any questions, now Elizabeth, see if there's anybody said anything that they need an answer to. Sometimes we get some questions. Can you see?
Ada.
Ada says
Hi,
hi.
she just said, hi, Laura.
Hi. We have.
I have one question.
Okay, what's your question?
If I put the roping around my door, what is the lifespan before all the needles fall off? Because it's not in water.
You get sun on it all day.
Oh, is it in the sun or the shade? That's
Yeah.
right. This is not a simple question. All right,
So-
in the hot sun, how long is that thing going to last?
probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And on your shady side
It'll probably last for a month.
and inside your house, because it's dry inside the house.
Inside the house, it would last longer, but it'll still dry out. It'll dry out, but the needles won't fall off as much as they will.
And it'll stay green.
It'll stay green.
Oh.
So that's you may have to buy 2.
2.
What
you
about
gotta buy
shipping?
2.
Do you ship a lot of the wreaths?
We ship the wreaths with the trees. We don't actually do like mail order wreaths or we're personal.
So
Get
you're
one.
a wholesaler,
We're a wholesaler.
mostly. Now, do you also have for local people they can come to you,
Yeah.
or that's not?
We don't do the like choose and cut or the local sales, but we do sell in Wilmington on a piece of property there that we rent and
Just a little Christmas tree stand.
a little Christmas tree stand. Yeah, we also go down there and last week in September and sell pumpkins.
I know, because you're going to have a market on all the holidays.
Yeah.
What do we grow? You got to start growing some Easter lilies.
Right, some Easter lilies. We need to do that, but it's
But the holidays just keep getting earlier and earlier.
Yeah, earlier holidays. But I mean, a tree will only last so long. Even under the best conditions, under the best, like if you took really good care of your tree, cut tree, how long will it last? The best case scenario.
best case scenario 2 months.
2 months. That's a pretty long time. Some people have the tree all that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, traditionally, you're looking at a month, or something like that. And you probably have 3 or 4 weeks inside the home.
And it's important to keep water.
Yeah.
Is that important?
Yeah,
I
that's
say
right.
that.
Well, we actually, when we put the trees up on the Christmas tree lot, we give a little fresh cut, display it, put it in a water stand,
Yeah.
and it's there until the customer gets it. We give another little bit of fresh cut, which is taking about a ½ inch of the base off, which allows it to take up water, and
Right, because if you don't give it a fresh cut, that kind of seals off, and even if you put it in water, it couldn't suck it
Right.
up. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically, all that trunk down there, the white part doesn't take up the water. It's the outer where the bark is that actually takes up the water.
Right, the
Cambium there. There we go.
Okay, we got a question.
I have a
from the-
question about what you do with your used Christmas tree. Where does it go?
Oh, now there's an interesting question. Wait, we're going to get to that one. But I'm going to get to first, okay. So if I bring this tree home, if I go to buy a Christmas tree, I want the person who's selling it to me to cut off just a little bit of the trunk, or I can take it home and do it myself.
Do it
if they want
yourself,
to.
yeah.
But they should be offering this service for you because everybody knows. And then you put it in water.
Yeah, and if you're not going to take it directly and put it in your house in a water stand,
Yeah.
then you want to put it in a bucket in the garage out of the sun or on the shady side of your house where
Yeah.
it doesn't get sun, because sun ultimately is the worst, their enemy for our Christmas trees
Right, once they're cut.
once they're cut.
And then you have to make sure that now how much water will a tree drink? You have to fill that, they have those little cuppy things at
Yeah,
the bottom
well,
of the stand.
Well, you'd like a stand that would hold like a gallon of water at the minimum, but a lot of the stands that you find,
Yeah, they hold a cup of water.
yeah, it'd be better to search out a stand that would hold more,
If you're somebody who wants to keep a tree a long time, we need a stand that's going to hold more
Right.
water.
Yeah, and the key to it is not to let it dry out, because if it dry, you put water in, and you don't ever put any water in, like I do
Right.
sometimes.
You get another tree.
That's it. And then not on the 24th, you don't. Not
Right,
these days.
that's right.
All right. So, and then what I've heard something. Do you mist them? What's that about? Have you heard about misting? I've heard something.
I think any humidity that you could add is good, but sometimes in your house you might not want to. But the wreaths and stuff, some people you can take them and soak them in a little bit of water before you put them up, and that kind of stuff. I mean, it is kind of like a cut flower or something like that, but it's probably not going to take up a lot of moisture because it's like the tree, it seals up.
It seals itself up, but it won't be losing any water
Right,
while it's soaking in
exactly.
the water. All right, so we've had our Christmas tree. We've kept it for a month because we kept it watered the whole time, and we didn't have it sitting in the sun. And
Right.
probably no good to have a heating vent.
Yeah, you want to have it in a place that's away from your heat. You want to make sure your lights are, I mean, Christmas tree lights. I mean, Christmas trees don't actually cause fires. It's the lights or some kind of a heat source that.
Christmas trees don't cause fires.
Right.
People cause fires.
Exactly. So that's kind of a misconception you see on the news, and it is tragedy when somebody has a fire in their home at Christmas, but 99.9, 100% of the time, the Christmas tree does not spontaneously combust. And
Never.
you see, we've gotten a lot of bad press on fire marshals. They're out there trying to burn the tree and they put gas accelerants on it, or
Well,
like gasoline. I mean, of course it's going to burn.
right.
But
No,
if
but
they
you're
take
right. It's not gonna. Tree sitting
regular
there.
tree that you can't hardly burn it.
Yeah. It's not
Like
gonna
a
burn.
fresh
So,
tree. I mean, a dry tree, of course. It will at night if it has a source, but I mean, get your timer on your lights so they're not on all the time. Make sure you inspect them. I mean, we pay very little money for Christmas tree lights, so they're not meant to last for 30 years.
like they used to.
Right.
All right. So yes, we're gonna wind up this conversation here on Christmas trees by what do we want? What are we gonna do with our old Christmas tree?
Okay, so most cities and towns in the bigger areas, have a Christmas tree recycling. You place it on the curb. They'll take it to the landfill. They'll grind it, make mulch, and then they'll resell it for mulch. And then, in some of our coastal towns, they'll pick them up and use them as dune restoration.
Oh, dune restoration.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some places will take them and put them in ponds and for nesting areas for the fish.
Oh.
Lakes,
You would
trout.
you would put an old Christmas tree in a pond to give fish someplace
Place
to hide.
Exactly. So the bigger fish can't eat them.
Well, there you go. And I don't even know. I guess you can put it in your trash can, but you'd have to get it in there. I guess
Cut
they
it up.
mostly.
Yeah, most of the time, I mean,
Sand
most
company.
cities pick up the trees. They have a couple of pickup points. Even here in West Jefferson, they pick up trees. Like the town does. And we also have our extension service and the local telephone co-op. They offered a Christmas tree recycling area. And
So you don't drag it down to the lake and throw it in yourself.
Right.
Well, I mean,
You
if
could.
it is your pond.
If it's your pond, you
But you
can,
don't go to a public lake and throw your
it
dang
in,
Christmas
yeah.
tree in there.
So they had a place where they would chip them up, and then they would either give the mulch to people that wanted to use it. They could put it in compost or a lot of other things. It's a good choice, and it doesn't cause that much waste at the end of the
right.
end of the
'Cause we're
cycle.
trying to be less wasteful.
Yeah.
All right. Have we missed anything? We missed anything about
The
Christmas?
presents.
The presents, yeah. Well, yeah. How do you get more presents at Christmas? That's what I want
I guess you
to
have to be really good.
Yeah, you gotta be good.
Really good.
Well, I so appreciate your taking time to explain about this Christmas tree because really, I mean, to think about, like, if you want to, I don't know, be an Olympic swimmer, you got to practice till you're 20, but if you want your Christmas tree in the White House, you got to work on that for 25 years. That means going out there and checking on that tree 7-10 times a year. And
Yeah, and we visit them you're pretty close,
Yeah.
7 to 10 times a year, every tree.
every tree.
And the thing about it is, like, when you come where the Christmas trees are grown, you see all these hundreds of thousands of trees, and you say, how could there there's too many trees, but it takes 7, 8 years. So when you see them on the hillside, there's 7 or 8 years worth of Christmas trees planted in order to produce one harvest, and then you rotate to the next. And of course, like if you leave for bigger trees, you're looking at 10 or 12 years, for your 10 footers, and then you're on up there for the.
Now, do you compete in these Christmas tree competitions?
We have a few times.
Yeah, but is it your dream to have a tree in the White House, or?
Not really.
Not really,
But
but you would.
But my son wants to do it.
Okay, so that'll be the third generation.
Third generation.
Of Christmas, the third, and 3 is the trick.
That's right. So we've got a few 14-foot trees we're grooming for the White House.
Oh, good. So because your son wants to do this, and lucky him that he has his family business. So he's taken an interest in that. So now a few years down, 10 years down the road,
maybe he can.
When he's big man on the Christmas tree field, he can do it.
Yeah, or he can do it in a few years if he can win the competitions.
Yeah, you got to win the competitions. Well, that's it. Okay.
And it comes in on a carriage horse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they bring it to the White House on a horse and carriage.
Yeah.
I know my uncle one time brought the tree from Johnson Duke. Brought the tree down.
Yeah, he did.
I guess it was from his forest, or I don't know why he was in charge of bringing the tree, but there it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to bring this conversation to a close. I'm going to sing a little song. Did anybody ask anything there that needs to be?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Perfect.
Ada says hi, Laura.
Well, hello back. All right, I'm going to sing a little song, and then you're going to be in charge of turning the camera off at the end of this song. There's a little button down there that says finish. And when I'm finished
With your song.
with my song, and I'm going to sing this song for you all.
The audience.
This is a song that I wrote. It was actually the very first song I've ever wrote, a little 2-chord song, and it's called the Grandpa Song.
It's about Uncle Basil.
And,
No.
and these people are all dead, so we'll be all right. Ooh, we're not singing anything like this right now. Everything's out of tune.
How in the world?
How in the world? I don't know. I tuned it before I got here. Yeah, it was tuned when I bought it. But you started a little bit of nursery business kind of as a hedge, or just because you weren't busy enough?
Well, I mean, basically we started a nursery out of necessity because we were producing our seedlings on the West Coast, and they'd ship them back to us. So we thought it'd be better if we had control over the process, and the reason that we're doing it in these styrofoam trays is to ensure there's a major problem with it's called Phytophthora root rot, and it's a root disease.
Yeah.
And that's one of the disadvantages of having them in the ground, and we think this is a big advantage of having them above ground in artificial media, is to
avoid that.
Avoid that.
Now, do most of the Christmas tree growers in Ashe County get their seed from the West Coast?
Well, the seed all comes from here, but there's a big timber industry.
Yeah.
So they have the technology to do the seedlings. So they'll send the seed there and grow the little seedlings, and send it back to them to grow here
on a truck or something.
And then they could actually they may actually grow the seedlings on the West Coast.
And then when they send them to you, are they bare rooted?
They're bare root.
Yeah, that's the way the.
And the other advantage to this is it comes in a little root ball, so the roots are intact. It has a little more moisture
Yeah, it hadn't been sitting in a
warehouse
or a
truck or whatever, so we can just take it and plant it in the field, and the survival rate is exceptional.
Now, are you growing? Are you able to start all the trees that you need? Now, are you going to get in the seedling business?
I'm in the seedling business. We have seedlings for sale, and
so if people wanted to start their little backyard Christmas tree lot, they could come to you rather than go. Now, if somebody wants to, let's say I live up here in the mountain and I decide I want to start a Christmas tree farm. Can I just call somebody? I mean, is there any laws that you have to follow?
As far as employment laws would be, if you had employees, if you did it yourself, there's not a lot of restrictions against it. It would be, it's just a long-term you know, you'd be looking 8 or 10 years out before you could ever have anything to sell. So
Yeah.
What
you
about
better have a good backer or a lot of money sitting
what
around.
about your
to-
employees? How many employees do you have?
Oh yeah, you're coming. You have.
we have like 35 employees.
That's a lot of people.
And basically, they work 10 months of the year. I have 5 or 6 that work full time. Maybe 7.
Yeah.
7,
Well,
actually.
that's well. Thank you for keeping us employed, and that's
Yeah.
it. We're all right now, I think.
We're in tune.
Yeah.
The grandpa song.
I haven't played this in a while.
You were fabulous.
Grandpa, he was born on election day. A Democrat for the world, his people said. He turned 95, he's still alive. Slow smile, shining eyes. Whoa, whoa. The moose on the wall at Grandpa's house. It's been dead for years, but it's still the same. And I go around every year or two. My uncle's drunk, ain't that a shame? Well, Grandpa turned 95 the other day. Half is mine, but he's okay. Oh, oh. Well, the neighbors come around to sing a song or two, and his wife throws his clothes out the back door. Well, I don't understand why they live like that. With a little less luck, I'd have been there too. Grandpa turned 95 the other day. Half is mine, but he's okay. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And Blanche comes around at the cocktail hour with a scotch and water and a tale to tell. Basil doesn't know what it is I do. I've told him 3 times, but I don't mind. 'Cause Grandpa turned 95 and he's still alive. A slow smile and shining eye. Grandpa turned 95 the other day. Half is mine, but he's okay. Whoa. You can pick your friends, but you're stuck with your family. All right. Oh, is there something somebody wants to
No.
say? No. All right. Then you see the button that says finish. This show is finished. Off you go.